You're listening to the Into the Woods podcast with your hosts, Dermott and Michael. Let's get into it.
Wonderful chase by Hinshaw.
Cox again. I cannot believe it. Dacos nearly runs out of room. He's fouled.
Jamie Elliott has won the game of footy for this famous club.
Slap for Mick Dacos. He's going to be the hero. The little champ is going to kick the winner.
Here's the Degoe moment. He unloads. Bang! You need your stars. And Collingwood stars just went and wrenched the cup back.
If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. For Spotify and Apple listeners, a 5-star rating will be greatly appreciated. Make sure you hit the bell icon on any of those platforms to be notified as soon as new episodes are released. You can find us on X at Into the Woods Pod and on Instagram at Into the Woods Pod 10. Thanks for your ongoing support by helping the podcast grow. Go Pies! Welcome to the Into the Woods panel show, brought to you by mattsprintshop.com.au. I'm your host Dermott, and for the next hour or so, we'll be talking about all things Collingwood. Once again, I'll be joined by 3 of the great minds of the Magpie community. So let's get into it. You will know our first panel member from his YouTube channel, Black and White United. If you haven't already, please make sure you check it out. Welcome, Andreas.
Thanks for having me, boys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you back on, mate. Our second panel member is another recognisable face from the Pies socials. Make sure you take a look at his content on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube under the handle at Paddy's Pies. Welcome, Pat.
Hey guys, good to be back.
Yeah, Pat.
And our third and final panelist is making his debut as an official panel member. You may know him as my right-hand man on the regular episodes of the Into the Woods podcast. Welcome, Mick.
Yeah, good to be here. I'm not sure I like being referred to as the third panel member, but anyway.
Third panel member. How's it feel that you're finally able to have a proper say on these panel shows? Because you've always complained about how I leave you out.
Well, I never even knew what my role was last year. I wasn't a host. I wasn't a co-host. I wasn't a panel member. I think
You were just there.
If they're actually here with me, I would have been making sandwiches for everybody. That's about all I would have had to. That was my expected role.
Well, it's time to step up. Even though, I think it was a couple of hours ago, I was on the phone to you and you said you didn't want to. You said you were hoping to sort of just cruise through.
Do this?
Yeah, you were hoping that Andreas and Pat would carry you.
Oh, yeah. Like I was just saying before we started, I haven't got... It doesn't all go well for the podcast, but I've actually got a lot to talk about because the season hasn't started. We did a pod last week, but I'll do the best I can. I'll see what I can bring.
I said pre-show that I was going to throw you under the bus, so at one point I will be doing that. Normally on these panel shows, I like to start off sort of in a fun way and go down memory lane. And seeing as though it's January and the preseason games, they're not too far away, I thought, well, why do we look back to the old Wizard Cap and NAB Cup days, back when there were 9-pointers and 3 points for a rush behind and all those great things. Back when you would get 50,000 people at the old Telstra Dome for a grand final in the preseason. They were really the days. As someone that sort of like grew up around that era, we loved it in primary school. We absolutely loved it. It's just feels like something's missing during the preseason these days. So let's look back, and I want to get some of your favourite memories from around that time. And we'll start with you, Andreas.
Oh, man, I'm pushing it back now. The actual one that I went to when I was young and like real young, I reckon I would have been probably like grade 3, grade 4. So you're talking like 95, 96 sort of time. There was a game, because my cousin is a mad Carlton supporter. And Carlton, I think, played Geelong in the Ansett Cup grand final at the MCG. Now, obviously, at that age, I'd never been to a grand final or anything like that before. And I swear to you, there was almost 90,000 people at the MCG for a pre-season grand final. It was one of the best atmospheres that I've seen as a kid. But obviously, at that time, Collingwood wasn't setting the world on fire. but it was really good. I think it might have been 96 because and they played in the grand final the year before those two clubs. It's just one of those memories. I did go with it with my dad and my cousin. We took him there and stuff, and I just feel as if that was one of the memories from pre-season cup that I think it back then it had a bit of substance. Back then I think it actually meant a lot more because it was the knockout competition and it was something totally different. I think in now if you had that now it would be the equivalent to like in English soccer, the FA Cup or something like that. Just something weird. Like I think it's like that. I would love to see it back. I mean, you want to go back to like Grouse Collingwood wins and stuff like that. I remember, when we had the barcode jumpers in '96 and '97, and we'd play at Waverley Park, and we'd win a game, and it was like wow, But I think the best one out of the lot, it was probably like the NAB Cup era where we beat, I think it was Essendon in the grand final in 2011. And
Yes.
that was actually the last like NAB Cup, Wizard Cup, Anzac Cup sort of format before I went to the community series. So, I mean, the good thing is you could say we won the last one and it came after us winning the flag, which was nice. And, but yeah, I think the only sour part of it was obviously we lost it in 2003. And so it was like we lost 02 grand final, 03 grand final.
Against the Crows, wasn't it?
Yeah. Crows pre-season grand final and then lost the granny and things. So it hasn't worked that well. But the best thing on the side, though, is that I think Carlton won it in 2013 or 2014 or something like that. And then they ended up winning the wooden spoon. So fantastic competition.
Yeah, it was about that mid-noughties range where I think Carlton and St Kilda both won a couple, didn't they? And then they finished right near the bottom of the ladder. Yeah, Carlton, the spoon, and yeah.
Well, St Kilda famously didn't even crack a smile when they were given their cup. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Grant Thomas and Lenny Hayes were just looking at the camera. Yeah.
That was about the only time, though. They used to celebrate like it was an actual premiership most of the time. I remember Geelong won, I think, in 06, and oh, man, they went nuts. But
yeah, no, Grant Thomas said they weren't to smile because this wasn't serious. They were after a real one, but never happened for them, of course.
What about you, Pat?
I'm going to probably stick on the similar theme to Andreas, where my first recollection was an Ansett Cup game for North Melbourne because my mum was a North supporter, well, she still is, and we're out at Waverley it must have been 96, and it was so cold, and I was like, what am I like? Why am I here? Why can't I just be at home watching anything else? But that was a very cold night. I remember seeing Wayne Carrier kick. I remember he kicked like 4 or 5. And that was one of my first real tastes of like the Ansett or the preseason cup. But then you fast forward to 2011, and I remember the first time I had sat in level 2 at, I don't know what it was named then. Let's say Colonial or maybe Nostradome.
No, what year, sorry?
2011, Etihad.
It was Etihad.
Etihad. And just seeing Collingwood, Heath Shaw won the best on ground that night, and we beat Essendon. I think there was I read it before 40,000 odd members, but that was, I don't know. It was one of those ones where we won. I think we were the first team in that era to actually win the preseason cup after winning the flag, and but it didn't bode well for 2011 in the grand final. So but I don't know. The community games are pretty good. I'll be going to Ballarat. I think it's just an excuse to head to Ballarat with the kids and watch the footy. But
we'll take anything at this time of year. I think we're all missing footy, but there's just something missing. I miss those days.
Maybe that's what they're trying to do with the State of Origin, try and fill a gap somewhere.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. All right, Mick, what have you got for us?
Well, this is going to belie my age, and I knew neither of you guys would take this because you weren't alive, but I'm going right back to the Escort Cup back in 1979 when we played Hawthorn in the grand final of the Escort Cup. And this was when it was really serious, like it was really competitive back then, as it was when you guys, the eras you guys spoke of. Yeah, but they played Hawthorn in the 79 grand final, and it was a really satisfying win because obviously we weren't winning many grand finals of any type back then. And I don't, because it's been, 46 years, 47 years or whatever, I don't remember a lot about the game, but I remember Don Scott. He had the black gloves on that night. You guys know Don Scott, of course.
Yeah.
he first bounce, he was up against Peter Moore, Darcy's dad, and he's just gone straight. He basically just punched Peter Moore in the eye. He had no intention of contesting the ball at all. So Moore's gone up for the hit out, and Don Scott's just punched him in the eye with these leather gloves on, and it was on from there. And but that was, because we were losing grand finals left, right, and centre back then. That was a great win, only to be followed by 1980 against North Melbourne in the night grand final, the famous 1980 night grand final, where Kerry Good kicked the goal after the siren to beat us, even though the siren had sounded. You guys probably know the story. The siren had sounded before he took the mark to take the kick, but the umpires hadn't heard it because it wasn't loud enough, and the crowd were going so nuts.
I've seen that footage, yeah.
Yeah. What I reckon what actually happened, not only did the siren go before Kerry Good took the mark to kick the goal, the siren actually went before Malcolm Blight took his mark, which he then passed it to Kerry Good. I reckon there were 2 kicks, both after the siren, for North Melbourne to win the game.
Siren Gate, the Freo Saints game down in Lonnie. Yeah.
It was about the angriest. It was only after overtaken by 2018 grand final as far as me being angry after a game. I was only 12, but I was a furious 12-year-old. I was not happy, and it was just blatant robbery.
Do you remember, Mick? I was thinking about this earlier today. I reckon it was about 2006, and we went to a preseason match. It was St Kilda, MCG, and we won by less than a kick.
Was this the after the siren one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell me what happened? Because from my memory, the siren went and the whole crowd went up. We celebrated like we had won. Then we realised that the big G train, Fraser Garrick, I think it was, had a free kick almost directly in front of goal. He was a beautiful kick, and he missed. That's how I remember. He missed, and we still got, so we got to celebrate a second time.
Yeah. So was this in the night series, or are you talking about just the day?
It was a day.
This was a day one.
It was a day game. No, but it was a preseason game. It was Wizard Cup, but it was during the day. You don't remember that?
I don't know.
Is that how it played out, Andreas? Or
yeah, it was. It's funny because now I'm really it's one of those forgotten sort of games. But I remember, and I think we were in front for the majority of the day, and then they were like pushing towards the end, and they came right back at us. And I think we were basically holding on for tooth and nail, like for dear life, and just waiting for the final siren. And then, they've done that, play from the back line all the way pushing forward, and the G train's killed us all day. And then he takes a mark, and I'm pretty sure it was fairly. I don't think it was directly in front, but it was pretty close.
It was a mark, was it? I thought it was a free. Yeah,
I'm not sure, but it went to him.
Yeah,
and because I'm pushing. This is 20 years ago.
You're doing well.
Yeah, and I remember that he missed it to the near side, and it almost hit the post. And I think it was like a little bit of a. It was like a little bit of a relief, but it was also like a bit of a piss take. Like it wouldn't matter anyway. It's just a preseason game. But when you're in that situation, you obviously want to hold on. And you want to win. I think it sort of just leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth moving forward to the start of the season that you lost the game. But I just wanted to quickly before we move on, I did want to ask Mick. Now I'm a bit of a football tragic, but I think as a Collingwood enthusiast, I haven't really gone into the whole night series. Can you give us just a 2-minute sort of description of what that I think it was the Escort Cup and then the Foster's Cup, but I think was it just like a night series, like a preseason night series, or was it like an in-season competition?
No, from memory, it was an in-season competition. Back in 78, 79, 80, it was actually went well into the season. Yeah. Okay. And they used to like playing a Tuesday night.
Okay, so they didn't have night games back then, because I don't think the first Friday night game happened until the 80s, didn't it?
No. The first 85 Collingwood North Melbourne, where BT kicked 7. I was at that game. That was the first night game for premiership points, but they played night games in the Escort Cup. Okay. Like a good 7 years before that. I think they started in about 78. Like the grand final I was just talking about. They were both at night. But for looking back now, it's a bit weird that they didn't actually play night games for premiership points until 85. even though
Okay.
they'd been playing night games for 7, 8 years at that stage. I'm not sure of the reason for that, but
Okay. And that obviously in season competition,
mm,
just for like the listeners and stuff like that of a bit of a younger generation, like in their 30s and 20s and stuff,
mm.
would that be, was it like the equivalent to like a FA Cup, League Cup sort of format within the actual season? Like, did it have that sort of feel to it, or?
Oh, I'm not a soccer fan, so I wouldn't
Okay.
know. I don't
Okay.
know
Okay.
their,
Okay. Fair
I
enough.
don't
Yeah.
know their thought, but it was highly competitive. Like it was
Okay.
really sought. The premiership was really sought after.
It
Okay.
wasn't bruise free.
No, it wasn't. It definitely wasn't bruise free. They were going hammer and tong.
And
Yeah.
was there like a, sorry to keep on harping on about it, but
No,
this
it's
is a
okay.
bit of an education sort of thing for
Yep,
myself too.
yep,
So, was there an incentive for the club that won? Was there like a cash incentive? Was there,
yep,
like, so it wasn't just
yep,
here's a piece of
yep.
silverware.
No, there was a cash incentive. Don't ask me what it was,
Yeah.
but why it was so highly competitive? Because back in those days, a lot of clubs were just hanging on by their fingernails,
Oh.
financially speaking. That's why it was so sought after because they wanted the money
Hmm.
to, to,
Did you
to, to
st-
survive.
did you see a lot of young players that wouldn't necessarily get a game within the for premiership points? Were they sort of playing in this competition as well, or was it?
From memory, no, they used to pretty much go out almost at full strength, from what I remember,
Wow.
because of that cash incentive. So I'm
Yeah.
just trying to remember how that would impact because you'd played a weekend, and then I'm not sure how many games there might have been Tuesday and Wednesday. I can't. It has been 45 years,
Uh,
but yeah, it would sometimes. So players would sometimes for half the year be playing maybe 2 games a week.
Wow.
Four games apart.
I know the
Um,
game's different now,
it is different. Yeah,
and I
they
know
didn't
the
have the running
game's
back
like
then.
you,
Yeah,
you're not so much like a footballer, so to speak. You're more of the athlete now,
yeah.
so you probably wouldn't be able to do
Nah, you would.
that now because of the
Yeah.
whole situation. I mean, look how crazy it was just trying to put that filling game from round one because of Cyclone Alfred back towards the
Oh
end of the
yeah,
season. Like
yeah.
even just rescheduling that was a nightmare. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, very
Oh
interesting. Like I've always wanted
yeah,
to ask. Even my dad, I just never. Every time I think about it, I never actually ask him. But
yeah,
now that you
yeah. It was
mentioned it,
in
I thought I've
season.
got to ask about it because it's something so different that you
Oh yeah,
wouldn't see now. You know?
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Like you talk about the running aspect, like the full forwards and the full backs. Like they'd just be standing against the goalpost sometimes, waiting for the ball to come down. There'd
Yeah,
be
yeah.
none of this running up and down the ground they
No,
do
the
now.
traditional key players, like you stay there and you just wait until the ball
You just
sort of comes
wait.
in.
And I
Yeah,
reckon they
yeah.
might have run a kilometre a game. Like I'm not sure about that, but
I
just
know what you're
something
saying.
ridiculously
Yeah,
low.
yeah.
Yeah. So totally different game.
Sorry,
Fun.
Dermot. I just needed that education
No,
lesson there for
no, I
myself,
love it.
mate.
Perfect. All right, I think it's time to get into the agenda, though. And I'm going to start with Pat, not only because you've got a little bit without saying anything, but because you messaged me a couple of days ago and you're angry. You're not
Oh, here
happy
we
and
go.
you want to go on a rant. Let's talk about it. Kane Cornes,
Yeah.
9.5 on the panic meter.
Yeah.
Quote from Cornes, it's just Nick and Josh or bust.
I
They're the
saw that
club that
yesterday.
should be panicking the most. Go on, it's your
So,
ball.
so Kane's, I'm not sure if he's got a vendetta because he previously had one against Richmond during their golden era, and now he's having a vendetta against Collingwood. But he's always come out pre-season, obviously needing to sell papers, sell clicks. But I guess the devil's in the detail. I look at always the stats. I like trying to be with the numbers. And I read that where our average list at opening round this year will be 25.6. Melbourne will be 25.4 and Brisbane equal third at 25.3 as the three oldest. Now, obviously you take out two 40-year-olds or a 38-year-old and sort of that comes down. But we're not actually that far apart from, well, the team that's won the premiership the last 2 years. So I guess I know that Kane's job is to sensationalize things, but he's done that in 2023 thinking, they've come off a prelim, how they're going to go, sit the scars of last year, all of that stuff, and we win a flag. 2024, we lose what? We don't make the finals on percentage. Matty Nichols maybe pays a proper free kick or doesn't pay the free kick to Freo in front of goal, and maybe we make the finals because we lose on percentage.
Matt
And
Nichols.
then last year, what happens?
I think it's a free kick. The momentum changes
Mm.
Not
Who
saying
knows?
it would have won the game, but
No,
it's a
100%.
momentum
Remember,
thing.
he
You know what I
kicks it
mean?
or Elliot marks it.
Mm.
We're down by a goal with all the momentum.
Yeah.
And who knows? But yeah, I just think that Kane, yeah, he's a bull at a gate, and I sort of join him as being the same bull, trying to get him head on. But yeah, it's just one of those things where we're an easy target with the age thing.
Mm.
But if history's to go by, it's actually put us in good stead for the year ahead.
Can I just like just tail on from that too? And then I want to give a shout out to David Hatley, who's on the sharing stand on my channel.
Turtle.
For Turtle Magpies. I just want to give him a shout out when he sent me a message, and he actually sent a text message to SEN to Kane Cornes, and I just want to read out what it said because I saved it, so I knew this was going to come up in the show. And I just want to say, he said Collingwood went to the draft in 2025 and picked up 5 young players. We did one trade for Buller to replace Cox. Buller is 24, Cox is 34. It's a straight swap on the list. So what did Kane expect them to do after the 2025 season? Now, Pendles, Sidey, Howe, not ready to retire. I think 2 of the 3 will go after this season. I think Sidey's got 1 more year left in him, right? That's my personal opinion. After this season, our average age goes right back into the pack. With that being said, though, what did Port Adelaide do in the draft this year?
I think no one.
Yeah.
No one. We got 5 young players, and they're about to lose Zach Butters, you would think, most likely.
And on the list that I'm looking at, their 9th average age of 24.4.
Yeah.
So they're not that far from us. Like and yeah.
And also too, if Travis Boak didn't retire, their average would have been higher. So I mean, it's apples for apples in that sense there. But the fact is that we still added 5 kids to our list,
and some good ones too.
Yeah, for where we were in the draft, and considering we didn't have much room to move, we're able to get a guy that's going to contribute well to the side and the forward line. Yeah. And we've got a crop of kids that are going to add to last year's crop. And I've got a feeling 2 of the kids that got drafted this year are going to actually play senior footy this year. So 100%. I think we're in a very, very good spot, and it's going to bite them on the ass.
And we've got cap space too.
Let's
next year.
This time in 12 months, we're going to sit here, we're going to redo this show, and you can screenshot this one for you. We're going to look at who we've picked up, our salary cap space, the contracts that we've offered, the ones that we've let go, and we're going to see how much better we are. It's a 24-month project, but I can tell you now, even if we don't do much in 2026, which I'm still hoping we finish high in the finals, I think in the next 2 years after, we're going to really be challenging pretty heavily.
100%.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking this would be a holding year as well. Like maybe to do the best we can, but develop the kids and then hold out for that big fish or 2 at the end of next year. At the end of this year, a Zach Butters and so on, and then reload for 27, 28. So I was thinking the same thing. But with the Kane Cornes thing, even if he's correct, then you're assuming that being old is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Geelong won the premiership with the oldest list at the time ever in 22.
Yep.
We then beat that in 23 with the oldest list ever.
Yep.
You got just talking about sport generally, the Australian cricket side at the moment is killing them. And how many players are over 35 in that sport? I'm not sure. Like I know basketball's got a lot of players in America. LeBron who's pushing 40.
NFL.
So yeah. So is really having an older average list a bad thing anyway? So even if he is correct, does that transfer to a bad thing?
I think I think with that one there, and the point you make is spot on. The only way that it could be a bad thing is if you don't have a mix of younger talent. And I'm not talking about younger talent in your actual squad that are playing in the VFL. It's the younger guys that are actually playing in your squad. On your match day squad. I think that's the most important thing. And that's probably one area where we've lacked. And I think we know that Fly is going to choose the most experienced team. If you had all these players to choose from, everyone's fighting fit. He's choosing his most experienced, and we know that. I think it's going to be in 12 months' time where our most experienced isn't going to be, a 38-year-old 450 gamer or whatever. It's going to be a young guy who's played maybe, between 15 and 20 games, but he's in form and he's in the side. I think that's where we're going to be in 12 months. And to be honest with you, I look at our VFL team and I think we're in for a good season in the VFL. And I think
Yeah.
that's going to translate to next season, to 2027 as well. But as I said, it's only bad if you don't have the age demographic underneath doing the work. If we had no one and we only had like a handful of kids and stuff like that, then what he's saying has got a bit of substance. At the moment, I think it really is just that, oh yes, let's get Collingwood. It's a bit of a vendetta against them and stuff like that. I think
Clickbait. It's Collingwood.
it's just clickbait. We sell
It's
articles,
clickbait,
we sell
yeah,
papers,
exactly,
we're making money. Keep talking about us, because at the end of the day, if you're
And
going to
we'll
get
talk
paid,
back.
yeah, and we'll just talk back. But at the end of the day, we're not getting paid. You are. So
That's right.
Can I just read out a viewer question, because it's kind of relevant to this conversation? I was going to wait for later in the pod, but we'll go now. So it's from @AgeMel on YouTube. He said, which veterans are we thinking get tipped out during this year in favour of the younger guys, and who? We'll start with you, Pats. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, Andreas, I think I agree with you that there will definitely be 2 out of the 3. Looking last year, and I think it was sort of maybe vindicated in the prelim, I think Sidey will stay ahead of Pendles.
Okay.
And Howie, I think this is, I don't know, I think this is Reef McInnes's time to maybe go, hey, am I going to be a key defender? Am I going to take this game by the horns? What am I going to do? Because we can't really rely on Howie. Like, we were sitting last year going, we're playing, what was it? We're playing Adelaide. We need Howie. We've just, we've lost him. He was so important. And then we get him back. I just think that he's in that unreliable basket.
With
So
that recent injury, it does feel like that way, that this is Reef's time now. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that it's one of those ones where if he's going to make it, it's going to be this year. Obviously, he's coming off an injury, but he's looking good. And I know everyone looks good in December, January. But I think there's a really good opportunity for Reef to sort of make it his. I think maybe Howie and the general this year might be the ones, particularly after his record.
What about you, Mick? Are there any veterans that you could see maybe getting pushed out of the team, and any kids that you like that you just want to see maybe as their replacement?
Well, I think it's just happened by natural attrition, because a few of the regulars last year, like Will Hoskin Elliott and Myercheck, are both gone. So that's just by natural attrition. That's opened up 2 spots straight away. And then you got Cox, who didn't play a lot last year, but he's no longer at the club. So I wouldn't say there's no one older player that I'm really ready to give the permanent chop to, because, as I said, I think those 3 having left the club, it's opened up for an opportunity for a West now to have a more regular shot at it. It's opened up a position for Ed Allen, for instance. So these guys will come into the club, come into the side to replace those 3 blokes who have now left the club. So at this stage, I wouldn't be showing too many of the older guys the door yet. I think they're doing enough to keep their position. Is
there anyone that maybe you could just see dropping off, even if it's later in the year? Like, are there signs? Like, maybe not round 1, but
unfortunately, there's a few signs around McStay. Just with his body, he's never been able to put together any more than a half a season for us at best. And then I know he had an injury at the end of the last year, but his form, he just looks so far away from it form-wise as well. So I could see him possibly making way if he doesn't turn things around pretty quickly. Not that he's super old or anything. Like, what's he, early
30
30s
or 31?
Now? Yeah. Not that he's super old, but he ended last year nowhere near it. So,
but to that point, Michael, like, if we're going after a big fish like a Ben King or a key forward, and then we've got someone like Jack Buller who's come in to essentially replace Myercheck, there might, McStay might actually be down the pecking order naturally.
Yeah. Well, you bring up King. I don't want to divert too much from the question, but I hope they don't go after somebody like a King, because you're going to be paying in the
Oh,
region of 1.6, 1.7 for him a year. And I watched the guy a bit last year. I saw him his game against Harris Andrews in the final. Not only couldn't he take a mark against Andrews, he couldn't stop Andrews marking. That guy's not worth 1.6, 1.7 a year to
give it
my.
to Nick Dacos
Yeah,
instead.
exactly. Look, I don't think you pay your fullbacks, your full forwards, or your ruckman that type of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if you could get him for 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, but you couldn't get him for that much.
Would
No,
you
He's,
no.
rather would you
going to
rather
demand it.
someone I know you love for Zach Butters. Would you
Oh
rather
yeah.
someone like a Zach Bailey over Ben King? Would you pay
Oh
that
yep,
much for
yep,
Oh,
Bailey?
God,
yeah,
yes.
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
he's a
But
good
yep.
player.
Essendon, but that's 6 million over 5 years or some
Mm,
ridiculous amount, isn't it? That
mm,
Essendon's reported
mm.
to get him for. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we keep playing the money ball theory like we did in 2023, and we didn't have
Mm.
big money players there. So
Yeah. Sorry, Dermot, I diverted the question.
No,
So
you're right. Well,
I
do you
think
have
we're going to.
anything to add, Andreas? Any older
Look,
guys you can see getting pushed
yeah,
out?
I think McStay, that was the one that the alarm bell sort of rang. I still think that if Pendles and Sidey are still fully fit and stuff like that, I really doubt they're going to make way. I do think though that they will be managed just as much as they were in 2025, and I think that's going to be a blessing in disguise. Especially when, like, and with all due respect, you play teams like West Coast twice this season, which is really good. So I don't think they might necessarily travel depending on how we're going at the time. I think McStay's the one that rings the alarm bells. Look, I'm not afraid to say it. I think McStay at his absolute best is in Collingwood's best 23. He starts
Yep.
in the goal scorer, he starts at centre
yeah,
half forward, and he influences games. We don't win the 23 flag without his input, especially in that final series. But the one that I want to talk about the most here is if he drops out of form, I think it could be Membry. I think
Oh, good point.
and
Yep.
I'm
Forgot.
not
Yep.
I'm really worried that if he's in form and he has everyone's human, he's not going to be in form for the entire season. But if he's dropping form, especially later in the season, and we're pushing for a final spot or to cement ourselves, in the top six, for example, I think that's where you're going to see Charlie West and some young boys really push in. But just on the Jeremy Howe topic there that you spoke about earlier, I am feeling the Reef McGuinness side of things, but I'm also looking at it and I'm saying, well, I don't see much happening from TJ. I don't see much happening from Jacob Ryan. Is someone like a Joel Cochran the surprise gem this season that comes in and
good. Yeah,
becomes that intercept marker, becomes that? I mean, it's a bit hopeful, wishful thinking, but from what I've seen, the footy smarts are there. I think it's more just developing the body and probably just adjusting to the game plan. But I mean, if he's going to be catapulting up and you've got someone like a Reef McInnes coming back from an ACL and he's going to be in the side and he's going to be pushing and he could be Howe's replacement at any time during the season, and you're looking at it now, the season started in terms of training and he's already gone down. I do think that, Howe will be the one there, but geez, that puts pressure on players like TJ and Jacob Ryan because now's their time to actually grab it by the balls and try and get into that side and just be
Yeah.
noticed. You know
Mm.
what I
yeah.
mean? So I think that's the
Well,
part where, for them, they've just got to be pushing that little bit extra harder.
yeah. Well, Ryan really is the forgotten man, isn't he?
Mm.
Yeah, he just seems to have plateaued and really gone nowhere in the last 2 years. He hasn't threatened at all of
Mm.
breaking into the side. But Dermot made the point on our last podcast. It's not so much pushing the older guys out, but it's transitioning their role. The
Mhm.
Dermot said it's now the time for the likes of Josh Dacos and Quain, or that the side becomes their side.
Yeah.
And Pendlebury, instead of being a midfielder, now moves in
At the
permanent
back,
halfback
yeah.
flanker, side bottom, deep
Forward,
forward.
deep forward. He
Yeah,
has to
deep
play deep
forward.
forward.
Yep. I agree with that as well.
Mhm.
Dan
So
Houston, halfback.
Mm.
halfback,
Well,
yeah, he give him the Port Adelaide role for crying out
Exactly.
loud.
Yeah.
He's good at it.
Yep.
That's
well,
why we got him.
this is a perfect segue. So, everyone that's listening to this has probably seen Jen's training buzz floating around on Twitter and Instagram.
Mhm.
And a few days ago, she posted a picture of it was an A team v a B team at Collingwood training. Now, I know it's January and you don't want to panic in January. We're not Kane Cornes. But there are a few things on there which I found slightly concerning, and I've highlighted a few of them. So it's Josh Dacos is still currently training with the defenders, not the midfield, which kind of hurts Houston. Same with Perryman, still training with the defenders. Sidebottom still training with the midfield group. Houston, this is the biggest concern. Houston training in the B team with the midfield. So a part of me is thinking that would probably be more wing than actual inside mid. Charlie West in the B team, even with no Dan McStay. And Harvey Harrison, I found a surprising one also in the B team. A couple of positives. Pendle's, training at half back. Parker, Rowan Steele, Ed Allen were all in the A team, which is, positive. And then DeGoey training as a forward, which I also thought was interesting. But I don't know. I just feel like we didn't bring in that big superstar in the off season that's going to help us go to that next level. I think the best way that we could have done that was changing up a few things, positional moves, as you just mentioned, Mick. Josh in the midfield, Houston at halfback, playing that prime role, getting the ball in his hands. But when you look at the A team, and you've got Pendlebury and Will Parker and Josh Dacos and Perryman all in the A team down back. Where does Houston fit into that? Is he going to be playing wing like he was named for in the B team? I don't know. I'm not that impressed with that, but like I said, it's only January. A lot can change. Do you have an opinion on that, Andreas?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't read too much into it in January. If that was like, a week before we played the game against North Melbourne in Ballarat, then I'd probably be a little bit more concerned. I would see it more as he'd probably go into the B team and help out some of the younger guys and stuff like that and just chop and change it a little bit. And we've seen throughout the season and also in pre-season where whether it be an intra-club match, whether it be, just like, a match simulation, they tend to change the jumpers and play different roles for each side. So I wouldn't read too much into it at this part now in January. But as I said, if it was like a week or two before the North Melbourne game, which really is only,
It's not that far.
a
Yeah.
fortnight and a half away, then I'd probably be like, okay, hang on a second, but it's still January. I wouldn't read into it too much, but I think he needs the keys while we're on the Houston topic, because I know that's the main one in this conversation. He needs the keys. I'm happy for Josh to play on off halfback, but if he's going to play off halfback, you've got to change the role that Dan Houston's playing if he's playing off the other halfback, or you put him in the wing, or you know what? Keep Perryman down back and get Houston and let him go into the midfield or play him on the half forward flank. There's so many things there, and I don't really want to go into the whole Bobby Hill situation, but if there's going to be that gap in that forward line for a few weeks into the season or whatever it is, put Houston on the half forward line. Give him the keys to control the game. He's got a big kick. He can get the cheap hand passes. I don't care if Nick Dacos gets cheap hand passes. I don't care if Houston gets cheap hand passes or DeGoey. If they're getting the ball and they're accurate and they're hitting the scoreboard or they're goal assists or their pressure acts are good and they're tackling and they're delivering, their disposal efficiency is great. I know that's boring stats of everybody, but when you see it in a game, if they're doing that, who gives a shit, really?
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Pat?
Well, no, I guess, yeah, well, in December and January, you see a few things. But if I'm not mistaken, I was just trying to think if Dan Houston had a little niggle in pre-season and he was in the rehab group.
2 weeks ago.
And so maybe that played in to that A and B team. I definitely do agree that wherever he does play, he needs to be given that autonomy and that authority to just do it. And obviously his All-Australian team, All-Australian year off halfback where he was the general there. That makes the most sense because he can set up the play. He can kick over a line. I just think, if there's some gaps that he can fill. We've seen him go through the midfield. I don't know. Sometimes if he goes through the midfield and he's too close to some of the mids, he gets reported. But
Well, Mick, you may remember when you interviewed Mick McGuan last year. He had an opinion on Houston as a midfielder, didn't he?
He did. He wasn't.
What was that?
He didn't. Well, the crux of it was he didn't rate him as a midfielder. Was it his running patterns? I can't recall, but his opinion was he didn't rate him as a midfielder.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think about what I just read out about sort of where there's guys
Well,
that listed like Andre said,
yeah,
yeah, it's January,
it's
but
January, but
I don't know.
if
Part of me is still a bit concerned. Like for example, if we wanted Josh Dacos as an inside mid, I reckon we would be training in the full preseason as an inside mid. So it's concerning for
yeah.
me that he's come back and started at halfback. And
Yeah, well, look, I'd be concerned, as Andreas said, if we're a week out and we're still going with this plan, because I think there has to be change. I expect Collingwood to drop down the ladder a bit this year. I reckon we'll end up in a wild card round. That's my gut feel, just outside the 8 in that area. But as we were saying just before, but I kind of see this year as a holding year. I want them to still try their best. You never know your luck in a big city. Still try their very best, but at the same time, make positional moves, get a lot of games into the young kids like West, Allen, Parker, and Harrison, and then reload for 27 with a couple of big names next year. So I'd be disappointed if there wasn't positional moves, because really, we haven't made a lot of positional moves in the last couple of years. And, obviously we won the flag in 23, so we're entitled to back up again in 24. That didn't work out. 25, yeah, have another go at it. But now it's the time to make those moves, I reckon. Josh Dacos, we've seen him in the midfield. We've seen that Geelong game in 23 where he got these 38 possessions in the midfield. Wasn't that correct, in midfield?
I think it was 38. Yeah.
Yeah, 38. And of course, we saw the Gold Coast game this year. I know it's small sample sizes, but every time he's beaten him, I saw him do I think it was a tagging job on Petrarca about 4 or 5 years ago, and he did well. And for crying out loud, like I said in the podcast last week, he's a Dacos. They're good in the midfield. Like, people remember Peter as a champion forward. He was a champion midfielder before he did his knee and his stress fractures of his feet. He was an absolute elite midfielder of the competition, Peter Dacos. So they're pretty handy in there, the Dacoses. So I
Do you
reckon.
think, Nick? Sorry. Do you think that we become too predictable with Dacos off the half back, sort of coming into the stoppages as that 5th, 6th midfielder, and doing the overlapping runs? Do you think, especially towards the back end of last season, we started losing those games? I mean, Hawthorn found us out quite well. We just became a little bit too predictable with the game plan.
I think,
and then, like, that end of that game against Gold Coast, where finally we decided to get off the plane and play a bit of footy, and we just lost. But the fight and the endeavour, especially, I think it was that 3rd or 4th quarter that Dacos played, when they put him into the midfield. I mean, I've seen Nick do stuff throughout a whole game, but I haven't seen Nick do what Josh did in one quarter, in that quarter against Gold Coast.
That's true.
Josh went into next level.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much like, hold my beer and let me just take care of the whole thing. It's not humanly possible to sustain that throughout an entire season. But if we can get that in key moments of a game where Josh has done what he's done against Gold Coast, even 3/4 of it, that then makes another midfielder go to him, which then releases his brother, which
Helps
then releases someone like a DeGoey, a Perryman running off the halfback. But I think what you said before is absolutely spot on. This is the time now where it is Isaac Quainer and Josh Dacos. They have to own this team now.
McCreary's another one. I think he needs to go to another level. He's in that right age bracket.
No, Nick desperately needs help in the midfield. He's crying out for support in there. We have to, like in 23, I think our halfback flankers went a long way to win us the premiership. Guys like Josh Dacos and Quaynor, they'd run off halfback. But you have to evolve your game plan, don't you? You can't be running with the same thing year in, year out. But and you mentioned Perryman, and just to bring a point up what Dermott said again, Geelong had a bit of success last year with run with players in the midfield in the finals when the tag and the McCluggage in the qualifying final, for instance. We've been found out, like, I don't know if you listened to our last podcast, but I spoke about the 2 times we played Essendon in 24. We drew Anzac Day, lost the second game by 12 points.
Zach Merritt.
Zach Merritt, both
Yeah,
games,
I love
35, 37 possessions, ran riot.
Mm.
If you've got a run with player going with him, he'll still probably get 20, 25 possessions.
Mhm.
But that's the difference between a win and a loss in both of those games. And we missed finals on percentage. That's correct, wasn't it? 24, we missed finals on
Yeah,
percentage.
so I mean, if the wild card round was in 2024, and I said this on one of my videos the other week, if the wild card round happened in 2024, regardless of people's opinions of it, I think we're probably the most damaging team in the final series if we're to go that, because we knock off Brisbane 2 weeks before, we just lose to Sydney, we smash Melbourne in the last thing, and then we finished ninth. We would have played Carlton in a wildcard elimination final, and you look at what they dished up against Brisbane in the elimination final. I think we beat them by close to 10 goals. All of a sudden, you've got the reigning premiers in a bit of form. In a semi or in an elimination final. I think we're actually pretty good. So realistically, from our flag until this point, we haven't really made a massive dip. I mean, we just we missed out finals one year, and we just missed out on a grand final too. But we're not that far off. So I think it's more or less we're just going to identify the players in our side that we need to, take that next step. And I think Josh needs the keys, and Houston needs the keys, and someone like a Bo McCreary as well. Probably.
Well, but what do you think about Dermott's point of Perryman as a run with player, not used every week? But when you come up against Zach, like Sidebottom did in the back end of 24, when he took on Neil and Viney and Errol Goulden and beat them all, and we won two of the three games.
Yeah, you could probably use him. I would say, have his set role, whether it's down in defence or wherever it is, rotating through the mid and spurts or whatever he does. But and he was phenomenal last season. I thought his intercept marking, especially towards the last line of defence when we're under pressure, and I think he's actually really good in the wet too, which is nice to have a defender that's actually got clean hands in the wet. But I see him, if you're going to use him as a run with player and as a potential tagger, and I know McFly's not big on taggers and stuff, but mate, he's the reincarnation of a Levi Greenwood, just for a specific role. Hey, listen, there's McCluggage or Bailey's running through the middle. Can you just quickly go on him and nullify his impact for 10, 15 minutes and then go back into defense? If we're able to do that, and I think on that too, the biggest thing that we had this season, which helped us, was that we had so many players that can play in dual positions, but didn't have to, because we had a relatively healthy list for the majority of the season. Whereas in 2024, we got absolutely decimated with injuries, and we had so many players who played the dual sort of position roles, but were always reliant on their second position, if that makes sense, as opposed to their first. So I think that's where we improved this season, but I'd love to see Perryman as a bit of a tag. I think he's got a bit of that dog in him. So that'd be good to see in certain situations.
But to your point, Andreas, about the run with, I think what I found as someone that could really do a good job, particularly on a merit, Jack Crisp.
Yeah.
So I know Crispy played a tagging role, and I know I've seen him on Cripps and a few other go through the midfield. Maybe those harder players, maybe Perriman's perfect for that. But I reckon Crispy, he's getting into that part of his career where his aerobic capacity is really good, top end. Skill-wise, he's good, but he's one of those players that, if his opponent gets 30, he still might get 25. Or he might get whatever it is. But
he's got that defensive mindset, originally having been a halfback flanker. So he still retains that defensive structure to his game.
Did you see him? He had that, sorry, just before did you see he had that niggle at training last week too?
I did say that.
The thing, and he bent over and he was rubbing his legs or something. I'm thinking,
he'll be right.
I don't remember us properly having a game without him. It's been that long. So, he's another one too. I mean, you can put him in the old boy category in a way. Is there a potential chance that, an Ed Allen plays really well, and because Sidebottom's potentially moved to the forward line, Ed Allen's come in pushing for a spot. You've got, a Prindable who's looking fantastic at training.
He's looking so good.
Well, I wanted to ask you
for a spot. So there's all a bunch of different machinations there that, he might be rested for a young player to come in.
I was actually going to ask you, Andreas. You mentioned before two of our recent draftees that you think can debut this year. Who are those two? Prindable?
Printable, I think, is almost in line for an opening round call up.
I think so.
I think he's very close. Now, I didn't have him obviously pre-Christmas in my opening round side, and I do think it's going to be. I didn't even have Buller in there too. I thought,
I
there's
noticed that.
yeah, I didn't have Buller in there too, and I was tossing up between Buller and Allen, but I thought I had obviously Hill in there, and before he's taken time off, so you'd probably just put Buller in for Hill, and then just change the formation in the forward line, like the positions and stuff. Now, obviously things happen, but I think Printable's the one, and I said this in one of my videos. I reckon by Anzac Day, if we have a player who's not hitting form, if we have an injury, which it happens. I mean, McGuinness went down in round 3 last year or whatever. If we have an injury, I think he's going to be the one to come in. The second one, you want it to be Harry Di Matteo. You want this to happen. I think you have to choose one of Di Matteo or Printable if one of them is going to come in. So you got to choose the one that's got the best form, because at training and in the twos or whatever, because they're both inexperienced regardless of how long Di Matteo has been there. If Fly's going to pick on experience, they're on a level playing field when it comes to senior football. So the next one I'm thinking is, I know this is going to be, I'm going to say this just for the sake that it's a big left field one. I reckon Jess Exena is going to be very close on getting a spot in. I know he's a rookie, but I think if the opportunity comes and we're looking for a small forward, it's either going to be him or Hayes. And I think he might actually be capable of getting a small forward role throughout the season.
Really? Have you been down to training, or have you seen?
No, I've seen him. I know his uncle personally as well, so there is a little bit of that sort of. There is a bit of. I'm not, but I am using it as a bit of a wild card thing. I do genuinely think he's going to push at times throughout the year. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But it's more I'd love to see it. But if I'm a betting man, Printable is the one that at some point this season, barring any sort of injury, I think he's the one that's going to break into the side.
It's funny because when we drafted him, he was obviously a bolter. He was meant to go, I think, pick 80, and Brisbane obviously didn't match. And I saw a lot of hate coming from the Collingwood fans online. And in recent weeks, there's now nothing but love for him. I've just been reading all the training reports, and he seems like he's everybody's new favourite player. So it's funny how quickly things change.
Bullish left footer. Like, I mean, you got a bullish left footer here. I mean,
He looks good.
yeah, he does. I think I mean, from what I'm seeing, like body shape and the way he is when he's got the ball, there is a little bit of Taylor Adams in the style. But if his disposal is half as good or better, as in like half better than what Adams was,
25% better.
Just 25%, just a quarter. That's it. He's going to be breaking into the side this season.
Mick, I can see that smile on your face. Mick did not like Taylor Adams.
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, didn't like Taylor. I'm looking for a new whipping boy. So any suggestions are welcome.
Is that because Hoskin Elliott's gone now?
Because Hoskin Elliott's gone, so nobody's jumping out at me. So I'm just going to let it.
I feel like Dan McStay's going to be your whipping boy.
Oh, you could be right.
I think he's going to be one of people's whipping boy.
But with the new recruits, just quickly, Sam Swadling, I've loved seeing what I've seen obviously online, and just he's got that. He looks like he's got a bit of mongrel, and I'm not sure if it's because he's hanging around Bo McCreary, but
he's got a real energy to him, doesn't he?
There is, and like you can't really tell if he's a left or right footer. He's just so good on both sides of his body, and I actually think him and Tynan might actually fight it for a spot first. But Tynan Printable looks really good, and I like how they've just got mature bodies. Like all the recruits are mature guys. They've experienced senior footy at Sandful level or Waffle level. So
just quickly, sorry, I know we sort of go off topic and stuff, but this is the good thing about it. I mean, Mick was worried that we weren't going to have much to talk about, and we can be here all night.
He's always worried about that.
Yeah, but have you guys seen like the players like Will Hayes, who was a twig last season? You look at photos and stuff of him now.
He's put on some bulk, has he?
He's put on a bit of bulk, and I think
Nice.
the other player that's put on a real amount of size is TJ. He's actually put on. I think Fly was saying he's put on close to 5 or something kilos of
You,
pure muscle. So, and
you'd
he's
expect that because he
Surely he will
trains
be.
with Quainer. Like you would
yeah,
expect him to be able to bulk up.
yeah.
And,
So
and his brother's CJ. So what? Like,
Mm.
wasn't he just? He's a big boy, CJ. So
yeah. So I'm hoping that I mean, you got these young guys that like they're doing all the right things, but it's more or less they've got to take the old boy spot. You've got to they have to. As much as I don't want to see Pendlebury Sidey Howe get dropped,
Mm.
I'd rather see him get managed and whatever because you're going to need them when the time comes. I want to see them get managed, but then not. It's going to be 10 times harder for him to get back in because that means then that as a club we are in the right direction going forward with these kids. I mean, from a lover of Collingwood, you don't want to see them not being able to get into the side, but progressing forward, it
Mm.
needs to happen
Oh,
in
yeah.
some way or another. It needs to happen now. And I'm not vindicating anything that Kane Cornes is saying by saying that, but what I am saying is that we just need the young kids to be like, move over because I want in. I don't care who
100%.
you are. I don't care if you're a 400 and something game. I don't care if you're the greatest Collingwood player of all time. Move over because now is my time.
Yeah, I'm challenging you. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like
Well,
it was like Will Parker last year in the Adelaide game.
Mm.
Will Parker, I thought he was very stiff to come out for Howie,
Yeah.
but obviously we wanted to fit Howie in. But
Mm.
it's one of those ones where he did a cracking job on Rankin and
Mm.
probably
Well,
should have played.
he's looked good in every game he's played. He's looked composed,
Yep.
Mm.
and he's not. But you mentioned a name, Pat, before.
Yep.
I'm surprised we haven't actually spoken about, and that's Bo McCreary. And I'm very disappointed that his pre-season's been interrupted. Um, from what I've read, I'm not sure why his surgery was delayed. It sounds like a stuff up, but he's a guy who could explode this year.
Mm.
And it's a real pity he's going to miss a fair bit of the preseason or bit of the preseason. But how do you guys see his potential for this year?
No, I think we saw early on with Bo, bursting on the scene after his draft year and winning that flag. I just think that last year when he was in the midfield, as long as he doesn't play midfield at Marvel Stadium, because that's just he'll be okay. But I think he's another player that can go through the midfield and actually be one of those bulls.
Yeah.
We can get imagine having Ned Long and Bo in the same midfield.
Geordie.
Yeah. But could he elevate himself to what Dermott describes as that group of players who say this is now my side, like Quaynor and Josh Dacos and Bo? Could Bo be one of those guys? Could he be one of our best 6 players, 5 or 6 players?
I think he has to. I think he has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's there's an expectation there where it's you are now with Josh Dacos, with Isaac Quaynor, you are the piece of the puzzle there. And I mean, there was another name that was just thrown up there too, and that's Ned Long. He gets his disposal correct. I've just got this feeling, and I know this is another outlandish claim, his burst of speed and the way that when he gets the ball and he arches his back, it's very Dane Swan-like, the way he attacks the ball. It's just the disposal isn't there just yet. And I think that if he can fix that up, we've got a really good, B plus to A section of our side there.
I'm okay with the disposal, Andreas, with Longy as long as it gets territory. But I agree with you. Like sometimes the disposal can sort of you can go a bit sideways. But if he's just getting territory and letting maybe a Bobby Hill, Will Hayes, DeGoey, Nick if he's down there, it'll be headaches.
Yeah.
All right, I want to chuck one more viewer question at you guys. And this one is, do you think Collingwood, as compared to other clubs that can have true closed sessions, and they used the Hawks, Carlton and Essendon as their examples, is putting us at a competitive disadvantage when it comes to clubs coming and spying on us? And it's not something I've ever really thought about, but I know, for example, Geelong are very big on their closed sessions, and there's many times throughout the year they don't let the media in. It's just very secretive, all hush hush. But you can't get that. I'm not for the interstate viewers and listeners who haven't been down to Collingwood training, you can just walk straight in, even to closed sessions, like nothing's stopping you. So, have any of you three, have you got an opinion on that, or?
I haven't really given a lot of thought, but just as you're asking the question, I'm thinking, of course, Collingwood with their state-of-the-art facilities, they do have the ability to set up indoors. They've got areas indoors where they can work on game plans to an extent. Obviously, not on a real field, but they do have that to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. That's yeah.
Yeah. Either of you two, Andreas or Pat?
Look, I think Essendon's actually. I know they got the hanger in there, but yeah, their main stuff is done obviously on the ovals, and it's basically facing a main road, so they're in the same position as us as well. I think the biggest thing for us in regards to training in that topic, because you look at Geelong, the Bulldogs, I mean, kicked out Spies, coming closer into the final series and stuff like that, and they just missed out. I think we have the luxury, and we've done it a few times, of just walking across the road and going to the MCG if we need one, a closed session. We have done. We don't do it often, but we tend to do it more towards the end of the season, pushing into finals or during finals. We've done it. We've had a session actually at the MCG. Media doesn't know. No one knows. They find out about it, and then you see them with vision, between the stands and stuff like that, trying to think. So we do that in that sense, but I do agree with the the initial question of, I do think it puts us in a little bit of a disadvantage where, and I've seen it before, where I think it was I think might have seen Alistair Clarkson for 2 weeks before a North Melbourne game in 2023 on the hill at Olympic Park watching. So I mean,
I've seen footage of Max Gawn doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Melbourne,
they train next door. Yeah.
They train next door. But I mean, like, pushing into the Melbourne game towards the end of the season last year, you had the Melbourne boys standing outside because their actual car park runs adjacent to our oval, where the black fence is.
It's where Amy Park, they park.
Yeah, and they're just there, and they're there watching. And and even I think to myself, it's like, this is where we are the richest football franchise thing in the country. I think we're second. I think the Penrith Panthers are the number one. But why can't we now, and I think Ned Kelly said that he was going to do it, fix the surface of Victoria Park.
Oh, yeah.
Fix it up and, do some more training sessions there. I know they are. Eventually it's going to happen. But you've got to, because you're able to put temporary fencing around with hoarding covers and stuff like that, blocking it off, and do what you need to do. I'd like to see that more. I think that's more of a fan thing too, actually getting back to our roots at Victoria Park. But, the facilities that we've got at the Glass House are amazing. So it is what it is. But I do think it is a little bit of a disadvantage. People can just literally walk your dog and peek over the fence and see the biggest sporting team in the country go about it. I think is a little bit silly.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap this up very soon, but before we do, I'm just going to throw it to you guys. Is there anything that you want to bring up with the panel? Nope.
Just quickly.
Yes?
Yeah, I got one quickly. Just and I'm going to, again, Mick, I got to ask you.
Oh, okay. As the resident old guy.
Yeah, because it's just when I was a kid, when I was young, I absolutely loved State of Origin. I loved seeing us play against South Australia, Western Australia. I loved seeing the Allies play against Western Australia, whatever it was. And I think it was more the fact that you used to look at the teams that, you always went for Victoria, even though it's Carlton colours. There is Victoria, so you've got your love there for it. But I always used to like seeing it because, Nathan Buckley's playing in the Allies, or Scotty Burns is playing for South Australia, or whatever it is, yeah? Why is it that now, right, or more modern times, so like late 90s and stuff, when it ended, why did the passion for State of Origin die? Why isn't it the same as the NRL? Why do the NRL guys hold State of Origin as the same as the Premiership, if not more? Why don't we have that in our game?
Yeah, well, the State of Origin in the NRL, that started as a result of them seeing our State of Origin which began in 77, 78. So
Yep.
that's where the NRL got the idea from. I think a lot of people believe that the passion in AFL, VFL footy died because the emergence of West Coast Eagles and Adelaide, they were basically then seen as, well, that's the Western Australian side and the South Australian sides anyway. They kind of replaced, a lot of people saw them as replacing State of Origin. That's why I believe the passion died, along with a lot of the coaches just hated it and were putting they were putting pressure on the star players not to play. The likes of Mick Malthouse and who else was there about that time? Who it escapes me, but there was a series of coaches who didn't want their players playing because of the fear of injury. So that put pressure on the players, and guys like Plugger would pull out of the odd one. Yeah, but I understand it was mostly because it was absolutely huge. They talk about State of Origin in the 90s. In the mid 80s, it was massive. Like we had some fantastic games against, especially WA, and then later in the 80s against South Australia.
I mean, if you look at our forward line, I mean, I've watched so many, and it's on YouTube, so you can access it. But our forward line at one stage was I think it was like Lockett, Ablett, Dunstall, Dacos. You know, like all like it was just like this is things that dreams have made of. You know what I mean?
Like I saw Ablett kick 8 against Western Australia.
So
and that was, I think it was 85. So he was just starting to become the great player he became, and he announced himself. He'd been a good player before that, but he really put himself on the map. With I remember he played on Motley. Oh, sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Motley played for South Australia, but it was against Western Australia. He kicked 8. But I think it was those things, that the fact that the West Coast Eagles came in, Adelaide Crows came in, so they basically became the representation for those states. So they kind of made the state footy obsolete to an extent.
Yeah, and we have that now when we play against Port Adelaide, when we play against Adelaide.
Exactly, we have that rivalry.
Like, it's that, only that, it's like we're from Melbourne, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it's not even state, it's more like the city side of things.
Oh,
than if anything. Are you in support of the State of Origin as the concept or not? No.
No, I'm not, for a couple of reasons. I don't believe it's going to be fair income like it was in the 80s. To begin with, they're not picking players on form, because it's at the start of the season. You don't know who's in form. You're picking players now, 2 months out.
It's basically an all-star game.
It's an all-star game. I think it's going to be played like that. And also, I don't think it's a great idea to be playing in February in WA. Like it could be 40 degrees there. And that doesn't go well for the condition of the players. And like I've seen it, like I saw Tony Hall do his knee playing for South Australia against Victoria. He was never the same player. I saw Josh Fraser do his knee playing for Victoria, never the same. Pendlebury playing that ridiculous Gaelic footy. He's always had trouble with that finger ever since. Well, Tony Hall was a Hawthorn player, of course, but I want Collingwood players playing for Collingwood so we can control how we use them, where we use them, how many minutes we use them in. Like I said to Dermott last week, it's like saying to your mate, yeah, you can take my new Lamborghini out for a drive around the corner. Like I'm not trusting my new Lamborghini to my mate.
See, that's why I think that if they're going to do it, like it should have been done as in that all-star sense. Do it after the grand final. Like, do it at that time. Or better yet, my concept would have been scrap the wild card round and the gap between the season finishing and the final starting. Teams that haven't played or that don't play in the finals, your players can qualify to actually play in State of Origin, because then there's like a little restriction on who you can use, and it becomes more of the tactical side of things to it. I think that would have been a good way to do it, as opposed to, let's chuck it on Valentine's Day so every bloke and his dog can watch it and then get yelled at by his missus, and then potentially go and see, your star player do his nail or something like that. Exactly. I think it's just I think we're all going to be biting our fingernails on it, but I'm personally for it, in the sense of maybe it's the nostalgia and the hope that it can bring something like that back. But I think you've got more of a chance of bringing in like a Wizard Cup or NAB Cup than making the State of Origin worthwhile.
It was so passionate back in the day. I remember if you had a Victorian a car with Victorian number plate on it, and you parked at Footy Park, back in the day,
Yeah.
it'd be vandalised. And I remember Stephen Kernahan, obviously captain of South Australia, but because he was playing for Carlton, he had his car over there with the Vic number plates. His car was vandalised. Their captain, he had his car vandalised. He wasn't happy.
Welcome home. See you
Yeah,
later.
it was just so passionate. But no, look, I don't want to see Nick Dacos play for anybody other than Collingwood. Thank you.
And Darcy Cameron too for WA.
I know
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
our
Yeah.
two most important player, our best
Yep.
midfielder, and probably structurally the
Yep.
most important player in Darcy Cameron in our side.
Well,
And
we'll
they're not
see in the
fit.
next,
Playing.
we'll see in the next few weeks who comes up with a bit of a niggle.
Oh yeah.
But they're not finishing.
Hopefully someone gets COVID. Remember COVID? Hopefully someone gets COVID. See you later.
Oh yeah.
But they're not even finished naming the squads yet. So I was looking at it the other day. Jamie Elliott could easily be playing for Victoria. Josh Dacos. There's still a few names. So
Bobby Hill would be a good surprise for WA.
look, let's just end it like with Bobby. Let's just all.
I'm not saying anything.
Mick and I don't need to, because if you want to hear our opinions, you can listen to our latest podcast. But Andreas and Pat, do either of you have anything to say on the Bobby situation?
You go first.
I think, I don't know. I think we've seen a lot of things online that aren't true, and you've got to respect sometimes people's privacy and what they're going through. There also comes a time where this is a workplace, and I see a lot all over the socials. If this was someone in my workplace, they'd be sacked. And there has to be a little bit of empathy and humility to the situation. And obviously, by all reports and what I've heard Charlie Gardner say, we're supporting him, and I guess that's all we can do. But there is also an opportunity now for Bobby to, I'd love him to come back. It looks like he's not going to be there opening round, let's be honest. But it'd be great for him to be back, say, by Anzac Day. We need him. And obviously, who knows what happens. We said it just early in the podcast, Andreas, that if Membry kicks that goal or Elliot kicks that goal, who knows? But what about if we had Bobby that night? So, you just hope for the best, right, for him and his family. But we pay our memberships to win premierships. So,
Yeah, perfectly said. Anything you want to add to that, Andreas?
I think before 6:45 today, when I watched Channel 7 News and I heard Darcy Moore's comments on him, I was pretty confident that he'd be coming back potentially Tuesday, because obviously Monday's public holiday, that he could be back at the club on Tuesday, getting back into the swing of things. But Darcy said that, he's taken time away from the club and we're supporting him, and I've spoken to him. He's getting himself right. To me, that means that if we were to see him by Anzac Day around that time, he'd need to be back at the club within the next few weeks to play catch up. And then obviously, have a run in the twos and stuff. So I just think that the task now, I posted a video a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, being very confident that he's going to be okay. He'll come back. He's just going to get this stuff sorted out. Having heard Darcy's comments now was a little bit deflating.
Sorry, can I interrupt? What exactly did he say? I missed it. So
look, I'm pretty sure he said that he's been speaking to Bobby every day and he's taken time away from the club to get himself right. And the way he said it and the way his face looked and said it, he said that I've been speaking to him almost every day, blah, blah, blah. For me, that means that he's still in Perth. There's no intention that he's ready to come back this week or next week to the club. You are pushing a timeline now where you need to get yourself right, because we're going to have, games against GWS soon at Latrobe. We're going to be playing against North Melbourne. And then the week after that, the season starts for opening round. We need Bobby for opening round. For him to come back for opening round, we need him back at the club next week to catch up on training, get himself right and stuff like that. I don't think that's going to happen now. It's just deflating what he said. If he comes back the week after, that's fine. But if we don't, worst case scenario, we don't see Bobby even back at the club by the time opening round happens. If he's not even back at the club, don't speak of him again for the rest of the season, for your own sanity more than anything. Just leave it. It's not going to happen. Let's get Hayes. Let's get West. Let's even try Saxena. Let's just get somebody else still side bottom. Give him that forward pocket. You know what I mean? I know they're different players, the different ability, but Sai knows where the goals are too. So I think that opens up. I think that opens up a corridor of another discussion, but a positive one. Yeah, I just want to see him back at the club.
Same.
Yeah,
as soon as possible, because you go through shit in life, whatever it is. But footy clubs, whether you're a supporter or you're a player, footy clubs are the best places to be when you're going through shit, regardless if it's your own doing or whatever. That's why I want to see him back as soon as possible.
100%. All right, boys, we're going to wrap it up there. But thank you to Andreas, Paddy, and of course Mick for coming on. Really appreciate it. Our next panel show will drop on February 3rd, and we'll have Paige, Serge, and of course the Grub Man on. Mick and I will probably be back, I reckon, in the next few days. We're going to record a special episode, so we're going to be moving away from the preseason talk a little bit. So just a bit of a teaser right there. So yeah, until next time.